In this video, I'm going to go over prime factorization. But before we get started on prime factorization, let's talk about what a prime number is. A prime number is an integer greater than 1 where the only factors are 1 and itself. For example, 2. The factors of 2 are only 1 and 2. Another example would be 3. The factors of 3 are only 1 and 3. Another example, 5. The only factors of 5 are 1 and 5. And remember, factors are what the number is divisible by. Let's try a harder one. Say 19. The only numbers that can go into 19 are 1 and 19. 2 does not divide evenly, neither does 3, 4, 5, or so on. The only numbers that divide into 19 are 1 and itself. If a number isn't a prime number, that makes it a composite number, an integer that is not prime but is also greater than 1, and since it's not prime, it has more than 2 factors. Up here, 1 and the number itself was 2 factors. A composite number would be something like 4. The factors that go into 4 are 1, 2, and 4, because 1 times 4 is 4 and 2 times 2 is 4. Let's look at 10. The numbers that go into 10 would be 1, 2, 5, and 10. 1 times 10 is 10, and 2 times 5 is 10. Another example of a composite number would be 15. 1 goes into 15, 3 goes into 15, 5, and 15. Let's look at 30. Numbers that go into 30. 1 times 30, so 1 and 30 go into 30. 2 times 15, so 2 and 15 go into 30. 3 times 10, so 3 and 10 go into 30. And, I'm running out of room, 5 and 6 also go into 30. So 30 has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 factors, whereas 10 only has 4. Now let's talk about prime factorization. Prime factorization is a whole number written as a product of factors that are only prime. Let's look into the number 18. When doing prime factorization, it's easier to start with the smallest prime number that you know that goes into 18. So 18 is even, so the smallest prime would be 2. And 2 times 9 would give us 18. But we know that this 9 is not prime, so we have to break that up even more. The smallest factor that is prime that goes into 9 is 3. So we're going to have 2 times 9 would be 3 times 3. And here we have a prime factor, and another prime factor. So 2 times 3 times 3 is the prime factorization of the number 18. Remember, 3 times 3 is the same thing as 3 squared. We can also write this as 2 times 3 squared. Another method would be the factor tree. The factor tree tends to be easier for visual learners, and I like using the factor tree as well. So we're going to split 18 up into 2 factors that we know. So 18 can be broken up into 3, and it also can be broken up into 6. This 3 is prime, so we cannot break that up further, but we can break 6 up. 6 can be broken up into 2 and 3. 2 is prime, and 3 is prime, and that's where our tree will end. So then, that would be the product of 3 times 2 times 3, or rearranged as 2 times 3 times 3, which is the same thing as 2 times 3 squared. Now, if this 18 was a negative 18, the prime factorization is very simple. Since it's a negative, we're going to account for that negative by multiplying the prime factorization by a negative 1. So this would become negative 1 times 2 times 3 squared, and the same thing down below, negative 1 times 2 times 3 squared. So when you have a negative, multiply the prime factorization of that positive number by negative 1. Let's look at the prime factorization of a monomial. If I give you 14x squared y to the 4th, you can rewrite that as 14 breaks up into 2 times 7. X squared breaks up into x times x, and y to the 4th breaks up into y times y times y 4 times, so 4 y's. And this would be the prime factorization of 14x squared y squared, because both 2 and 7 are prime numbers and the x's and y's are expanded. In prime factorization, if you have a variable with an exponent, you would expand that out. So since x is squared, we write it twice, and since y is to the 4th, we write it 4 times. Let's look at one last example. 50x cubed y. If we were to write this out, we can say that 50 is equal to 2 times 25. X cubed would be x 3 times x times x times x, and y is just y. This 2 is prime, and the exponents are all expanded out. However, this 25 can be broken up even further. So now we're going to have 2 times 25 can be broken up into 5 times 5. And then we're left with our x, y. 5 is prime and 5 is prime. So this is the prime factorization of 50x cubed y, where we can combine the 5's with a square and write them as 2 times 5 squared x, y.